It was a bright and bustling morning in downtown. The streets were alive with people rushing to work, their footsteps echoing on the pavement. On the corner of 5th and Main, a homeless man named Charlie sat on the cold concrete, his face weathered by time and hardship. His clothes were worn, his eyes tired, but there was a quiet dignity in the way he sat, his hands folded on his lap. He didn't ask for much, only a few coins from those who passed by, but most people ignored him, pretending not to see. That morning, as Charlie sat with a cardboard sign, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. A well-dressed businessman stepped out, looking every bit the part of someone who owned the city. He glanced at Charlie, and his face twisted in disdain. "What are you doing here, old man?" The businessman sneered, clearly irritated. "Get up and get a job. You're just taking up space." Charlie's heart sank. He had been shamed many times before, but this felt different. The businessman's words were sharp, cruel, and loud enough for others to hear. Charlie looked down, trying to shrink away, but the businessman wasn't done. "You make the city look bad. People like you don't belong here." Just as the man was about to walk away, a calm voice interrupted. "That's enough." Keanu Reeves, dressed casually, stepped forward, his gaze unwavering. The businessman paused, turning to look at him with confusion. Keanu stood between him and Charlie, his voice steady but firm. "You don't get to treat people like that." The businessman sneered. "And who are you to stop me?" Keanu's eyes were kind but unflinching. "Someone who believes everyone deserves respect. Are you wondering what happens next? Stay with us because the story is just getting started." The businessman scoffed, clearly annoyed that someone had dared challenge him. "I don't have time for this," he muttered, about to walk away. But Keanu stood his ground. "You may not have time, but that man does," he said, nodding toward Charlie. "He has a story, a life, and maybe even dreams you can't even begin to understand." The businessman rolled his eyes. "Spare me the lecture. People like him are nothing but a burden." Keanu stepped closer, his voice lower now, but with an undeniable authority. "You don't know what he's been through. People don't end up like this by choice." The businessman looked down at Charlie, still sitting silently, his head bowed. For a moment, the streets felt oddly quiet. People had gathered, drawn by the confrontation, some glancing nervously between Keanu and the businessman. Then Keanu turned to Charlie, who was still holding onto his cardboard sign. "What's your name, man?" he asked gently. Charlie looked up, surprised by the kindness in Keanu's voice. "Charlie," he muttered. "Charlie," Keanu repeated, giving him a warm smile. "You matter. You're not invisible." Charlie's heart fluttered at the words, and for the first time in a long time he felt seen. The businessman, now embarrassed by the sudden attention, muttered something under his breath and walked off, clearly defeated. As he left, Keanu stayed by Charlie's side, a quiet hero in the midst of it all. Do you think Keanu's actions will have a lasting impact on Charlie? Keep watching because things are about to change for both of them. After the businessman left, Keanu sat down next to Charlie on the curb, a comfortable silence passing between them. Charlie didn't know what to say. The kindness Keanu had shown him was so unexpected, so different from what he was used to. For years he had been ignored, or worse, scorned. To have someone stand up for him, someone with the power and fame of Keanu, was surreal. "I'm sorry you had to deal with that," Keanu said softly, his voice full of empathy. Charlie shrugged. "It's nothing new. People think they can talk to us however they want, like we don't matter." Keanu nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You do matter, Charlie. Everyone has a story. Life can be hard, but it doesn't define who you are." Charlie looked at him, his voice almost a whisper. "You don't know what it's like. I've been homeless for years. Every day is a struggle. Sometimes I wonder if anyone even cares." Keanu turned to him, meeting his gaze. "I care, Charlie. And there are others who do too. Don't lose faith in that. The words felt like a lifeline to Charlie, someone who had long ago given up on hope. Keanu continued, I want to help you. If you're willing, I'll do what I can. Charlie's eyes widened. What do you mean? Keanu smiled. I know people, and I can get you in touch with resources, maybe even help you find a place to stay. But first, I need you to believe that things can get better. Charlie's heart raced, and for the first time in years, he allowed himself to believe it might. What will Charlie do next? Will he take Keanu's hand, or will he turn it down? Hold tight, because this is just the beginning. The next few weeks were a blur for Charlie. With Keanu's help, he found himself slowly rebuilding his life. Keanu connected him with a local shelter, helped him get food, and even found him a job at a nearby diner. Charlie never imagined he would be given a chance like this, and he worked hard every day, grateful for the opportunity. Keanu continued to check in on him, offering words of encouragement. You're doing great, he would say, one step at a time. But the real turning point came when Charlie found himself at the diner, talking to some of the regular customers. They learned about his story, how he had once been a successful businessman, how his life had fallen apart after a series of personal tragedies. They didn't look at him with pity or disgust. They listened. They understood. Slowly, Charlie began to feel a sense of community again. He wasn't just the homeless man on the street corner. He was Charlie, a person with a past, with hope for the future. As he sat in the diner one evening cleaning a table, Charlie's phone rang. It was Keanu. How's everything going? Keanu asked, his voice warm. Good, Charlie replied, a smile spreading across his face. Better than I ever expected. Keanu chuckled. I knew you could do it. Just remember it's never too late to start over. Charlie felt a tear slip down his cheek. He had been given a second chance, not just at survival, but at life. Could there be an even bigger twist in Charlie's story? Keep watching, because you won't believe what happens next. A year later, Charlie was no longer the man he had once been. He had a steady job, a place to stay, and a community that supported him. He had rebuilt his life step by step, and with Keanu's encouragement, he began to believe in himself again. One day, as Charlie was walking to work, he passed by the same corner where he had sat all those months ago. He couldn't help but smile. His life had changed completely. As he walked, he noticed a familiar figure standing nearby, Keanu Reeves. The two of them locked eyes, and Keanu gave him a nod of approval. I knew you could do it, Keanu said, his voice full of pride. Charlie smiled, his heart full. I couldn't have done it without you. Keanu shrugged modestly. You did all the hard work. I just gave you a little push. Charlie laughed. Well, it was the best push I could have asked for. The two of them stood there, in the same spot where it had all started, knowing that sometimes all it takes is one act of kindness to change a life. If Charlie's story inspired you, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated on more life-changing stories. You never know when a small act of kindness could change your life too.